Marky Worthington Podcast all day.
All day.
Dream by night.
Don't buy me a drink. Just give me $10.
All day.
Go down to the strip club with your floppy disk and turn it into a hard drive.
Yeah, right. You'll get fucking thrown out by Big Tony.
We're here to name names and make people feel more ashamed for shit that they're not proud of.
Don't blow it. Keep it simple. Count your money.
No, whatever it is.
Hello and welcome to the Marky Worthington Comedy Podcast. This is episode 96. And I'm joined here with Nick from the Hack and the Fraud podcast. How you doing?
Yeah, very good. Happy to be here.
Good. Now, in true crossover podcast fashion, I've decided, being episode 96, we would choose a movie, well, I would choose a movie, and we'd do a review on something from 1996, being episode 96. And the movie I selected is Mars Attacks. Now, if anyone's watching this on the video edition, I'm holding up one of the original VHS versions of this film. It doesn't have the traditional artwork on the front. The traditional artwork on the front was similar to this. I'll just put up a quick image for people that are watching YouTube.
Looks like it was signed by Jack Nicholson there. It's a pretty special one.
Yeah. Yeah, the signature would be shakier these days if you did. But there's the artwork that people tend to see when they connect. Like, if you were to Google the artwork now, this is what you'd see. So, yeah, first impressions, what do you think just by looking at the front cover? Because, Nick, you come from a very good place in this where you hadn't seen this film before.
No, never seen it before, so this is my first. So I watched the VHS, let's call it, the version, so straight from the 90s. I also didn't watch this when I was a kid, so nostalgia plays a massive part when you, especially when you rewatch something. Like I watched The Mummy, and I watched it again, and I get a lot more enjoyment out of it than, let's say, my friend Ryan, who's on the other podcast, and he'd never seen it before. So for him, it didn't translate into a cult classic like it did for me. The Mummy was just great, and I think that's probably what happened here when I watched this. I was astonished with the cast. That cast is amazing, like for a B, or for like a B type.
I'm just going to switch this around.
But yeah, I think because I didn't watch it when I was a kid, I didn't really get the same enjoyment out of it than the cult followers of this classic, if that makes sense.
I get it. No, that's good. And you would have just noticed a mic change there midway through. See, I do this shit on the fly. Anyone there at home that's got your fucking podcasting review open, you're about to give it 5 stars and you heard the mic change, you drop that to 4. Okay, all right, I understand. I deserve that. But yeah.
Out of 10? Or
Yeah, so the like you said, the nostalgia plays a big part in it, and I purposely watch stuff from VHS sometimes because I think that I prefer the nostalgia that it gives me because it reminds me of when I watched it for the first time when I was younger.
Yeah,
right?
for sure. What year were you born?
I was born in 93.
93. Okay, yeah, so similar to me, 91.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, no, like we had, when I was a kid, we had Star Wars, we had Indiana Jones on VHS, we had Princess Bride, and that always plays such a special part. So watching that from all the time, because we had limited sort of VHS tapes, so I would just continue watching it again and again. Journey from Down Under, which was a TV show.
Yeah, I remember that.
I remember that. It was great. I think if you didn't watch it back then and you watch it now, you're just like, this is so silly.
They always played up the Aussie card.
They did,
some of that shit. Like they'd be like, remember the intro? There was like that scene, that song was like Genie from Down Under,
That's right.
and then like they'd be like, make our wish come true, and the dude would just be like,
Righto.
Yeah, like it's just fucking all right. Settle down. Everyone thinks all of a sudden they're fucking the crocodile hunter. And on top of that, though, I feel like you mentioned the Star Wars series and all that sort of stuff. Some of those I'll watch the remastered version on 4K or whatever, and I will enjoy it. But for example, so tonight I've kind of made a bit of a tradition of watching stuff on VHS just because I tend to find that I tend to be more immersed in it. Because I'm not just watching the movie, I'm watching the quality of the tape and all that sort of shit. How many times in the do you remember watching something on VHS you'd have like a random fucking line right through the middle of the film.
Yeah.
And that was completely acceptable. You would just watch that fucking film with fucking grainy lines all through it. And you'd be like, cool, I love Star Wars. But now, if you watch something in 4K and you're just like, oh, what the fuck? There's like one little pixel that's not right there in one scene, and you're going for a refund. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we've been spoiled. You're right. Absolutely. Where we just used to put up with it. I remember having to pause and rewind. You're like, you had to guess where you had to rewind to.
Yeah.
These days, you get 10 seconds. These days, it's like, was that 10 seconds? I don't know. It was like the whole movie, maybe.
Yeah, if you hired something from fucking Blockbuster, the part where the chick gets her tits out is worn out because of all the times it's fucking ran over. You know, there's that one part.
The third nipple in, in what's that movie? Bloody the Mars one.
Yeah.
The Mars one, not Mars Attack. What's it called again? Total Recall.
That's it. Yeah. The fucking.
They got some playtime.
I was thinking of the one boob chick from Kung Pao.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's another one.
Yeah, there you go.
I love that. Yeah.
The 3-tit chick. Yeah. You mentioned the cast in this. What for a fucking B grade movie?
Yeah.
What a fire cast they had in this.
I know.
Like when.
So I didn't know anything about this movie coming in. I knew. Saw Jack Nicholson on the front. He's in it twice. Tim Burton, director, obviously putting some decent runs on the board back then. It says Beetlejuice, but that was a classic. So I did watch that as a kid. That was great, as well as Batman. So he'd done some really good things. So it's just weird that I think they probably just had the script and they're like, let's just have fun with it, clearly. And everyone was going in with the same.
It would have been a fun movie to be
Fox
on.
in it. I remember.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what the fuck? I like Michael and Danny DeVito's in it as well. Like, it's just all these. Like, imagine trying to get fucking Danny DeVito in '96 to do a film like with this caliber. I feel like that. There's that, and the other part about it was as I was saying, it looks like it would have been a fun movie to be on set for. You know what I mean? Like, imagine being around all these killers, all these actors that are just like fucking. Even like Tim Burton, he did Nightmare Before Christmas in '93, so that's around his fucking peak as well.
Yeah. Before Willy Wonka, before the downhill. So what else? Sleepy Hollow.
James and the Giant Peach. Remember that shit? What a creepy fucking movie that was.
For a kids film, yeah.
For a kids movie, holy fuck. There was this one part in there that I just remember he got like a fucking piece of paper and made it into a thing that just floated away. Like when he's sort of dreaming of like escaping his parents, his fucking aunties or whatever.
That's right. No, that's a good point. Like in our day, we had Matilda.
Yeah.
We had a lot of
Danny DeVito, another one of his.
Watership Down. We had some really out Bambi even the start.
Yeah,
Just watch the first 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Kids don't get
Lion
that these
King,
days,
dude.
Yeah.
Fucking
Death of the Father.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Matilda, another Danny DeVito classic.
Yeah.
One of my favorite movies, like combos, is Twins with Arnie and Danny DeVito. What a fucking cool duo that was.
That's right. Yeah, complete opposites of each other.
Yeah,
so it kind of really worked.
Yeah, which is kind of the point of the movie.
No, I get that. Yeah, I wasn't sort of. Is anyone? They're not twins at all.
That's fucking bullshit. They don't even look like each other.
I just couldn't get it. I wasn't immersed.
We need to watch it on VHS. But the other point I wanted to bring up with this was we're talking about scary shit from the 90s. I watched this movie when I was, like I mentioned, born in 93. I watched this movie when it was still pretty recent, not brand new, but I probably watched this movie the first time in about 98, 99.
Yeah.
All right? So I was still a kid.
Yeah.
But it was on TV. I think they finally got the rights.
It's a core memory, obviously.
Yeah, they finally got the rights to put it on TV, right? Like it did the cinema runs and whatever. And it was like a premiere. Dad wanted to watch it. We stayed up. And he was like, because as an adult, you watch this movie now for the first time and you're like, this is kind of cheesy, there's nothing too scary about that. Dude, that scene when one of the Martians comes in dressed as a chick and bites the fucking dude's finger off and spits it into the fucking fishbowl.
Martin Short, by the way, who's like...
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's such a creepy character too. Yeah. That thing. It's just like, oh, what do you okay, say that some chick is into you, right?
Yeah.
You put your finger in their mouth because they've got chewing gum.
Yeah.
All bets are off.
That was a bad move on his part.
Yeah.
And I think that stopped that movement. because that used to be a thing, like, you know, the old finger in the mouth trick. That.
Oh, really? Yeah. Yeah, just bite the old finger off. Yeah, exactly. See, people watch this was a fucking revolutionary movie for the finger in the mouth trick. It's like, you don't put your finger in a girl's mouth because you don't know if she's a fucking Martian or not.
Yeah.
But so I seen that scene, dude, and that's where I was just stuck thinking about that scene. So the rest of the movie is kind of a blur for me. Now, I'm in a bunk bed, right? My brother's down underneath. I'm on the top.
You're top.
And it's time for bed after the movie, go to bed. And my old man comes in, but like into the room, but he kind of is like
doing the whole hover thing.
Like he looks like he's just hovering in. So I just see like the top of his head just cruising into the fucking bedroom, dude.
Yeah.
And I'm still like traumatized from watching some like dude get his fucking creepy finger bitten off. Yeah. So Dad fingered my mouth. No, just joking. I say, I fucking no. I grabbed.
He knew not to. He was going to before then.
Yeah. He was about to. And he's just like, look, it's a new time. You know, 96 is behind us. Yeah. No, so I grabbed my pillow, dude, because I just seen the top of my dad's head.
Yeah.
And I fucking waited for him to get like close, and I fucking hit him with the pillow because I was so freaked out. And he was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "I thought it was a Martian." And he, so clearly,
that's fair enough. And because back then we're kids, the adults have got massive heads.
Yeah,
they're thinking that's probably one of the Martians.
Yeah, it's so my brother had a massive head. Dude, he was born with an adult head, had to grow into it. You know what I mean? Dad said when he was trying to learn to walk, he used to like be too top heavy. He had to hold his head so he could take.
Bet Mum loved that.
Yeah. Exactly. Dad fucking hated it.
Yeah, that's right. Dad always tells a story about how I was born. I had my sort of hand. Like, and he's just like, you just see his face when he sort of tells a story. He's not impressed.
Yeah, you're like Eminem
thanks.
Doing the fucking headphone
check. Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, not like the greatest movie. Doesn't hold up for sure, I reckon.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's honestly. It's similar. I was trying to think of something similar. So The Mummy, when I said The Mummy, it sort of lives in a time like, you know, that's what nostalgia is. But Star Wars you watch again, remastered, it's great. But some films, you know, they sort of live in that sort of time, and you can't be too critical because they're for. This is obviously it was aimed, but it was for a younger audience. It can't have been for like teenagers. Maybe and above. I wouldn't say much older than that. Wouldn't you think?
Yeah, I think so. You're right.
Like think about what's the film trying to say? It doesn't really have much of a point to it. It's just a fun movie. So there's a bit like you can have other fun movies where there's the point to it, but this is kind of there's an absence of plot. Maybe it's just poking fun of like the 1930s, 40s sort of like.
Did
Martian.
have that, didn't it? Like it,
but that's it. That's all I could think of.
Yeah, well, it did kind of have that though. Like. When I remembered this movie, I thought it was older than it is because they were making it look. It kind of reminds me of it reminds me of kind of that like Fallout. You know the Fallout games, how they have like very like 60s looking fucking decor, but it's set like after.
Yeah, it's got that mix of 90s fashion and 60s kind of what the hell that is.
Yeah, like everything seems like big and 60s in it. You know, like if you think of cars from the 60s, you're thinking like old Chevy Bel Airs and fucking like just old like Jetson style shit, you know? So it's kind of got that aesthetic to it, but then you got like a lot of chicks with short hair in this fucking movie, which is 90s as it gets.
Yeah. What's the name from Sex and the City? Bloody Sarah Jessica Parker.
Yeah.
Glenn Close, she's very 90s.
Yeah. There's
it's just we could probably do the whole episode just naming that cast.
Probably
that person's in it. Natalie Portman.
She's
a kid.
It's actually that. So
Jack Black. Sorry, another one.
Yeah, fucking Jack Black as well. Because it took me a second. I was like, is that who the fuck? Holy fuck, it's Jack Black. Like, I feel like even though this. Actually, I'll see if I can get some stats. I don't think that this was a blockbuster, but at the same time, I feel like a lot of the actors in it probably remember it well because it would have been like a really fun. I think it would have been a really fun set to be on.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like
not a lot of pressure.
I feel
not a lot of retakes, you know.
Yeah, I feel
we need to get the real.
We don't need
the grimacing, you know, detail. Just that's one take, Glenn. That's enough.
Let's see if I can pull up some stats on box office shit. But the other part of this is I feel like it's basically an excuse for a bunch of fucking big actors to hang out, and coincidentally a movie happened.
Like Grown Ups, right? Remember Adam Sandler made that to be with his mates and film it, and they were like, we don't have a plot, but we'll put it out there.
Well, it's a bit like...
There's a tax write-off, that film.
They didn't want it to make money because they'd have to claim...
Yeah, like, buddy, what's it called? The producers, Mel Brooks, put out Springtime for Hitler.
That was there was one reference in this. I don't know. Maybe I should throw in like a bit of the non-spoiler synopsis of the movie. Maybe.
Yeah, look, it's been out since '94. If you honestly had texted me a spoiler for this, I couldn't be angry at you because I had all my life to watch this film, and so has the audience. So that's on them.
Yeah, well, I'll sort of summarize what I think. If someone was to say
without saying what happened to the action.
Yeah. Plot twist: they don't take over. Like the Martians don't. The Martians don't win. But so my take on it is basically Martians look at Earth and go, "We want that," and then Earth is just like, we're going to fight back. No, first of all, they're like, let's be friends. We mean no harm.
Yeah, right.
And then Martians are like, nah, fuck that. And then they try to take it anyway, basically.
Right, so I mean, but that's basically, I think that's that's on a page, right? That's what happens.
Fuck it. It's the synopsis for the whole movie is basically Earth was a piece of chewing gum in someone's mouth. Martians was someone's finger trying to get that. And then people of Earth were like the teeth clamping down saying, you cannot take our Earth.
That's right, yep.
So that was a metaphor for the whole movie in that one scene.
Yeah, that's one scene. Man, 5-year-old you, that was peak.
It's I don't think anything has... And I watched... So, all right, let's say...
I was going to give you a comparison to something that's a little bit on the surface dumb, but at a deeper level was a much... smarter and in-depth film. Was not the book, but Starship Troopers. So when I watched that, I was a kid too.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah, kill those bugs, and I didn't get it. Mm-hmm. And it was sort of a, analogy, is that right? No. Yeah. Well, basically it was
like a metaphor.
A metaphor for, Vietnam War and, but you don't think that when you watch it as an 8-year-old or a 7-year-old, you just think it's a bug hunt.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you've seen Aliens before.
Yeah.
So you're like, yeah, it's that. But you don't think of, you don't think you're meant to be on their side.
Yeah.
Or like an Avatar or something, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is
Avatar.
a more obvious, yeah.
I tell you another more obvious one that I seen was Bright with Will Smith.
Oh, yeah. Oh, with the orcs, right?
Yeah. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And another one was...
Orc lives matter, basically.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. And they cast
really
Will Smith
funny.
as the like front man that then like co-hosts with an orc sort of thing. And they're like, oh, we don't want like the orcs in the police force, or
That's
like
right,
you can hang out with him. We don't want him on our team, sort of thing. And he was like, oh, it's okay. I'll take an orc. Like, I think it's good. And then it was like, oh, we can like, speak to orcs because we've got an orc with us that can like identify with them. It was fucking wild that like as a concept. And I watched that with a bunch of like other people that didn't fucking realize the metaphor for the whole movie.
Oh yeah, but that's the thing, it was so on the nose. That's what I think that's what I didn't like about the film.
Yeah. You didn't like Bright? No.
Oh, I like the setup. I thought it was an interesting take, but I think they didn't really take it as far as they could probably go, or at least as in-depth as I wanted to. But I mean, Joel Edgerton, he plays the orc. He's an Australian actor. He was really good. I love his stuff.
Yeah, well, I...
Like, what's it called? What's that? Animal Hunter? Animal House.
I haven't seen it.
Animal Kingdom.
Okay, yeah, okay.
That's a good one.
Okay. The other one, which was similar to that, was District 9.
Oh, yeah. Very good.
Yeah. There's another contrast as well. And coincidentally, stumbled on a short film called 9, which
Was that the original?
yeah. No, not related to District 9,
Oh, okay.
but just because I was searching for the movie District 9, I found a short film about a little, like, it's like an indie film about this, like, little ragdoll creature dude that, like, it's called Nine, and he's one of 9 little creatures like him. And there's kind of like a Wall-E vibe sort of thing, like he's cleaning up the earth because, like, humans have fucked it.
So I think District 9 did start as a short film by the same dude, Blomkamp or something. He's a South African dude. That's why, all his films. He did Elysium, which is like a similar, same actor that's like Chappie. Oh, Chappie. He did Chappie.
Oh, no, so I don't know any of the references, like, to outside of District 9.
So he did that one. He did Chappie, and he did with, basically just very South African films. You sort of watch them and you're like, it's a piece of their culture, which is probably not exactly, but something.
Yeah, it's interesting to have I've only recently started getting into, like, more, like, outside of Hollywood movies, and, like, my cousin and I used to play this game on the World Movie Channel. How long until there's a sex scene in a French film? And
2 minutes in,
no shit, we clocked one at -3 seconds. I don't know how this happens, but I'll explain. You hear a chick moaning before the opening credits. So it's like blank screen, you can hear it, and then it goes into it. And it was a wild fucking film because the concept of it was there was this one chick that lived in a village that didn't do anything aside from sleep with all the dudes in the village.
Oh, right.
And that was her, like, she would get food from the guy that, like, from the grocery market. She'd, like, sleep with him. Yeah. Mechanic, like, car guy, like, just basic.
That was her barter system.
That was her barter system. Yeah. And, like, it was just a small French village, and this chick just lived there and slept with all the dudes to get fucking money. And I was like, that's a weird
swipe.
That's a you can keep the tip. So it's an interesting concept for a fucking movie. Anyway, we used to it was like just a Friday night, like, drinking game. Whenever, like, they're like a sex scene, you know, you had to do a shot or something.
That film, you'd
just get
drunk.
fucked up. Yeah. So stats on the movie. It had domestic box office. What would you say the over under? What would you say it would be around?
Oh, it would be higher than I think because it did develop a cult following. So do they include not just cinema tickets but DVD, VHS purchases and all that? So
no, this is just box office. Yeah, so just
not much then.
Let's look at it. Okay, so we got 37 million domestic box office. So that's the States, and then a further 63 million internationally. So you're looking at $100 million at the box office film.
Yeah.
Which probably would have got it just off the cast alone. Like, most people, before you could see many trailers or spoilers in the 90s, you would have just bought a ticket to this looking at the cast.
Yeah. I think Pierce Brosnan was in James Bond at that point.
So
everyone knew who that was, and they were like, oh,
fucking Nintendo 64, you know? Right. Like, that was the peak of 007.
I maintain that he wasn't in the best Bond films, but he was the best Bond.
Okay,
what do you reckon about that?
That's
debatable.
No, the best Bond was the Australian Bond by far.
Oh yeah, Lazenby. Yeah.
Fucking has to be, just because he was a loose unit. Like that, I just respect that.
Yeah, he was basically not an actor. I think he was like a male model or something.
Yep, and then was just basically a fucking ludicrous, like, choice to be Bond.
Yeah,
and that will win for me over everyone else, just because. Was
he in a great Bond movie, or was he a good Bond? That's the thing. I think he was just in a very good movie.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just going to choose him because of, like, you know, it's funny that, like, some, like, complete fucking piss wreck ended up being the Bond and, like, was insane. Like, they were basically like, this guy's done... Like, he like, didn't care that he was Bond. Like, like, you know what I mean? Like, it was just...
One hit wonder.
Yeah. But no, honestly, I think that and this might be just because of the time, but when I think of Bond, I do think of him. I don't think...
like, fair enough.
The fucking cover of GoldenEye just appears in my head. That's what I think of.
Oh, so you think of Pierce Brosnan when you think of Bond?
Yeah.
No, yeah, that's right. That was a great game. That was one of the best.
But that might be just because that's what I that's when I was looking at films and shit like
that's
that.
fair enough. Yeah. I reckon you ask an older person, they'd probably say, Roger Moore, Sean Connery.
Yeah.
These days, Daniel Craig. Now he's in great Bonds, but as a Bond, a little bit too emotional. Would you say? I love that. I love how suave Pierce Brosnan is.
You're right. Yeah. Well, even when I see him in movies of that era, I'm just like, oh, cool. It's James Bond in Mars Attacks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Dante's Peak. Oh, James Bond takes on the mountain.
Another one is like I can't look at. Actually, to be fair, even in conversations up until recently, I would still call people by their character's name in their most dominant film.
Okay.
Like, I think Arnie's still fucking Terminator.
He's
to me,
Terminator,
dude.
and then Han Solo. Oh yeah, when
he was
chased by that rock
he's
as well.
Still Han Solo. He's not anything else. There's no one.
But imagine that, like Harrison Ford. Yeah, I was trying to remember his name, but he's like two iconic, just action hero stars. You know, Han Solo. Everyone wanted to be Han Solo from Star Wars. I love Luke, but everyone wanted to be Han Solo.
Yeah,
and everyone wanted to be Indiana Jones. Like, and that was him both times.
Yeah,
no
true.
one's saying I want to be that policeman from Jaws. Great film, but I mean,
yeah, true. Yeah. I like Jaws is before our time, but I feel like it was the big movie of the generation before.
And we're talking about holding up. That one does. I watched it literally the other month, and it was like amazing. It just, you know how it just gives birth to basically the whole fighting a monster or something genre, I think. And not showing it until the very end. It was just such I love that part of it. Same with Alien. They just don't show what they're dealing with. So it's the fear of the unknown. It's like, there's fucking sharks. What? 12, 16 feet? It's unheard of. It doesn't exist. And then it's like, oh, there it is.
It's a bit like, controversial opinion.
Oh, yeah?
Terminator 1 is a horror, not an action.
Is a horror not an action? That can be both, though.
Yeah,
action,
I know, but
action's so
it is
broad.
it is action, like it fit, but I think its dominant category for me, I would say horror.
I'll say that about Alien. It's a sci-fi horror over an action, but it has got action in it. And then the second one, Aliens, is an action over horror with horror elements. Terminator 1, I think it starts off with the kind of because you're not sure about Arnie. You're sort of like, well, you're not sure about the other guy too. So you sort of
Carl Reese is the character's
Reese,
name.
And that's right. And he's like hunting down Sarah and
what's
Sarah's
the actual guy's name?
Michael Biehn.
That's it. Yeah,
he's in there
because he's in. That's why I thought of it because I listened to a podcast recently. He just to get on a quick tangent. He's retired to a town in Bisbee, Arizona.
Yeah.
And he is there's a famous comedian that I like called Doug Stanhope that lives in Bisbee.
Wait, I thought he was dead. Is he still alive?
Doug Stanhope's still alive.
Damn, okay.
He was on this podcast, episode 72.
You serious?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. I must be thinking of someone else. Maybe I'm thinking of... But yeah, no, Doug Stanhope's like a name, right? That's like
yeah. Oh, shit. Sorry about that. Yeah, that's my thing to say. Put up your posts on Instagram, which I put up before you got here, preemptively. It's all about the media management. So he had Michael Biehn on. Is it Bean or Breen? Bean, yeah. On his podcast when he moved to Bisbee, because it's like, oh, we have another local name. Yeah. Let's get him on the podcast. And he told this fucking hilarious story. So he didn't have a car at the time. So
for Terminator?
No, like in like now. Like now, and so he said, Doug's just like, oh, I've got another, you can drive my car if you want. And Michael Biehn went to the gym and took Doug Stanhope's car, and his wife needed the car, so she went to the gym and grabbed the car and left.
Yeah.
And Michael Biehn went out, the car was gone, called the cops and said that his car had been stolen. And then the cops were like, okay, we'll keep an eye out. Seen the car, pulled it over, and she was like, yeah, it's my husband's, I'm driving it. Damn, I thought he knew. And
how big's the town? Is it like
it's
everyone knows everyone?
2,000 people, so it's small. Like they have there's like a small community. It's mostly just like old hippies and shit. Doug said that basically what happened was it was like a mining town that then moved into like retired. It had kind of a bit of an art culture there.
Okay.
And once all the miners moved out, there was just the art people left. So that is kind of a small little, and a lot of people like going there because it's like a good little, like, you know, out of the way sort of town. Like Doug said that they're so close to the border that you can see people like trying to climb the fence from Mexico, like from his backyard.
Oh man.
Yeah. And, like they have regular patrols there and everything. Like it's one of those little like bordering towns.
Right.
But yeah, so
I'm picturing that scene from Terminator. So he's just having to relive that, getting pulled over by the cops, and he's saying, "My car's been taken," and he's like, "You don't have a registered car. There's no way it could be taken." And it's like they're all thinking he's a schizophrenic or something.
Well, I think that because he was on the podcast, on back to what I was saying before before I started like tangenting,
How did he get him? Sorry, did he just come from? Was he just in Australia, just doing a?
How did I get? Yeah, he's in Australia doing a tour. I opened for him, so I figured leading up to the tour, let's get him on the show to do like some promo for the gigs.
Oh damn, nice.
So yeah, I've had there you go. I have 2 mutual guests with Joe Rogan's podcast. I got Doug Stanhope and Sam Talent, which was on episodes 1969 of Joe Rogan's podcast.
Okay. Yeah.
So there we go. I've had 2 mutuals.
Yeah. It's a good litmus test.
I'm not
how you doing.
I'm not a regular listener of his podcast, but I just think that like the fact that I share 2 guests is like a pretty cool.
Yeah, it's like especially as a comedian yourself, you know, that's because you look at it for the guests that come on it, you're like, oh damn, yeah, Theo Von's on it. That's awesome. I'll listen to that one.
Yeah, that's what I do. I don't tend to listen to too many, but if there's a comedian that I like, that I say, I'm like, oh, I'll listen to that episode, you know?
Yeah. Do you have a favorite comedian?
Yeah. It's at the moment, it's this New York comedian called Big J.
Okay.
He's on a podcast called Legion of Skanks. It's like considered one of the most controversial podcasts in the world. Okay. The most offensive podcast in the world.
Yeah.
But all 3.
They used to be like the title to get. Now these days, it's like, oh.
Yeah, but they were that. They've been doing it for like 12 years, so they were that title when no one wanted that title. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, they've done wild stuff on their show. But they've been on the like JRE as well. Like those 3, because it's 3 guys like that started it, and
okay.
They usually do it live as well, which is a cool dynamic. I think like eventually that might be something I'd like to move towards, like still do studio episodes, but every now and again do a live one in front of an audience. Makes questions and stuff a bit easier, and more personable.
In front of an audience. Okay, right. Yeah.
For a podcast, I think it'd be good.
That'd be awesome.
More personable for like audience members to interact with the show and shit like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he was like, Michael Biehn was on the podcast. He was talking about a few alien references from the movies and shit, which is cool because Terminator 1's one of my favorite movies. So it was cool to listen to him talk on a podcast about the movie. Yeah. You know what I mean? And yeah, so controversial. I think it is a bit of a horror, but the second one's definitely an action in my mind.
But it's not. I mean, you could say more controversial things. Like you could have been like Terminator 1's a piece of shit.
Yeah,
and just complete garbage, and you know.
That would be like, I'd have to give myself an uppercut for that. Yeah, it's one of my favorites.
It's cool. He took a punt on it too, because I think it was sort of early on for James Cameron, and it was certainly not didn't have a massive budget behind it. Terminator 1.
Yeah.
Terminator 2 had a much more.
Yeah.
It's one of those ones that you could argue both ways about which one's better. Terminator 1 or 2. You probably say 1.
Yeah, I think they're pretty much even, to be honest. Probably.
Yeah, fair enough.
Probably, honestly, 2. I think if I had to choose one of them, only because I watched 2 first.
Oh, okay.
Because 2 came out closer to when I was a kid, and my old man wanted to watch it. And just like Mars Attacks, he was like, all right, boys, you want to watch a movie?
Yeah.
And my brother and I got a younger brother, we were like fucking way too young to be watching Terminator 2. And I still think about like how wild it is that I seen that when I was like 6 years old.
Yeah.
You know? And, but I think that it was more relatable for me because there was a kid in it that like, you know.
Yeah, the kid's a main, and you sort of.
Yeah, it was like, I feel like Terminator 1 would have been less relatable. But we used to play like Terminator 1 on Sega Mega Drive. Dad used to play it and we'd watch. And yeah, he just roped us into all the shit that he wanted to do. Yeah, dude. He'd be like, all right, boys, fucking going to play some. Do you want to play some Sega? And like, that's a good way to write it off to mum. Just like, all right, I'm just going to watch the kids play some video games. He'd just play it and we'd watch him. It was the original Twitch stream, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, like that era of cool shit from the 90s, I think like the Terminator series was definitely fucking. I think there wouldn't be more Terminator movies if it wasn't for the second one being such a good follow-up.
Yeah, that's right. It's a really good sequel. It's two very good sequels, Terminator 2 and Aliens. They're basically what to do with the sequel, where to take it.
Yeah.
Like Blade Runner. I don't know if you've seen Blade Runner, the second one that came out.
I've seen the first, not the second, yeah.
But it's like, you got to do something with the story. You can't just rehash it and tell the same thing again. Like, okay, well, Star Wars, they tell a little story short. You can basically you can watch just Star Wars episode, A New Hope, and that's a complete story. So Empire Strikes Back basically expands the universe, expands what the Empire is. You got to introduce the Emperor. So they introduce all these new characters, new elements to the storyline, and basically, they take the story somewhere. And same with Terminator 2, Arnie's comes back. The whole ads leading up to that were Arnie sort of like coming back to get vengeance kind of thing. So you don't actually know, or you're meant to not know going in that he's the good one.
Yeah, because he played such a good villain in the first one.
Yeah, so you're thinking, oh shit, he's back.
Yeah.
And so there's a scene where Linda Hamilton and John, they sort of run into Arnie and he pulls out his shotgun out of the roses.
Yes.
Like, oh, fuck.
That's such a big lead up to that too. And that dude that just gets smoked in the middle. Hey, buddy, you can't come back here. Just fucking
That's right.
Yeah, just between two fucking dudes just having a shootout. He's holding a coffee, just living his best life, and he just gets fucking lit up. Yeah, that's wild, dude. Yeah, and actually, I heard that between the first and second movie, they kind of had to do some like work with Linda Hamilton to make her more badass, because like the first one, I mean, like with the whole Sarah Connor character. If you think Sarah Connor from the first one, oh, don't shoot! Why am I chosen for this? Oh, I just want to work at Burger King or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
And then guide it for me, Big Buns, when she puts the fucking... she's riding a scooter, for fuck's sake. Yeah. She lets her housemate fuck some dude while she just goes out for the night. What a non-dominant chick. Anyway, so she'd be like you'd think like now, she'd just be like, go and fuck him in a car like a normal person. You don't have the house. To be fair, dude, that guy, Terminator 1, the boyfriend that's fucking ginger in the thing.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, he fucking takes on a Terminator. He gets a couple shots off. I mean, he gets fucked up. But
he does. But he's not a one-shot done. He
fucking picks up the lamp. Don't make me bust you up, man. Fucking like hits him with it, dude. I'd like to see a version of that where like he hits him with it and like the electronics like zaps him and fucks him up a little bit. Like he becomes a bit more of like a fight.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, like imagine,
but he's just. I think it would have been a bit out of place because Terminator at that point is meant to be, oh fuck, he's indestructible. There is no, and then you're thinking Michael Biehn's just done hit him with a shotgun 5 times. Yeah. It's like, oh thank God, and he's like, no, he's gonna come back. So it's sort of like it's building up that whole. Man, we cannot defeat this machine.
Well,
so if the boy, it would have been so out of friend if the boyfriend was having a real fair fight.
Dude, I reckon like boyfriend wins.
Boyfriend wins. End of movie.
End of movie. First 30 seconds, dude.
Same thing in Predator, right? Like, because the Predator's sort of like you don't see Predator till the very end.
Yep.
It's just that kind of similar monster movie, right? And how. I think there's a guy that sort of takes out his sword and guards the bridge.
Yeah, Billy, dude.
Yeah, it lasts like 5 seconds.
Yeah, Billy.
Like, man, you feel like he's done well.
Billy,
just
at the end, dude. I remember we were watching this shit with the old man yet again. Yeah. Predator. It's like the late 90s. My brother,
old man's not a predator. You just to clarify.
Yeah. No, don't worry. He didn't try and grab any bubble gum out of anyone's mouth. So he fucking. After my brother's head, you know, he fucking just like started looking around. He's like, Mum doesn't do it for him anymore. So,
Well, I was just thinking, like, predators, you know, was such a cool thing to be a predator at one point in time, like in the 80s.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, a predator.
yeah,
And
look
it's
out, I'm a
like-
predator.
And then bloody Chris Hansen comes along, tries to catch him, you know, to catch a predator.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, they're not cool anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of don't really like being a predator, you know, if you ever were a kid.
Chris Hansen versus Predator.
Chris Hansen versus Predator. Oh, how do they not think the name of that? Yeah.
Yeah. So the bit that I liked was that's in Predator. It's like Billy's got the knife, rips his shirt off, and just cuts an X on him.
That's right. Yeah.
And it's just like, I remember watching that with Dad, and he was just like, he thinks he can take it, but there's no way he can. And then, no joke, fucking straight in. But he was one of the last ones, like, it was down to, I think, he was one of the last ones to live.
Right. Yep.
And, well, there's that bit where, like, the dude with a minigun just fucking, like, unloads into the forest.
Miniguns gonna come back in a big way. They're just I love them in every single movie they're in. A minigun.
Terminator 2 kicks the desk out the window. Fucking
The Matrix is a scene with a minigun. It's just amazing.
But you know, like that's what bed in the name of it, because the cop is just like, he's got a damn minigun, and fucking like it was like a product placement for miniguns. We have to fucking call it that. Like, we have to put that name of it in there.
Yeah. Because it's like, okay, so it's like saying it's a Porsche or something like that.
Yeah,
so that was the product.
it's a Kleenex.
It's not actually.
I don't
it's a
know.
Kleenex. Right. Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, like, well, what about the fucking minigun TM sponsor the podcast? Because they set that up earlier in the movie when they go over to Mexico to get all the guns from Enrique, the arms dealer that Sarah's friends with, and they're down in the bunker and they're looking through all the shit, and Arnie just pulls the fucking sheet off it, grabs it and turns around. It's like all dusty because it's like in the desert. And John Connor just looks at him and goes like, "Oh, that is so you." Like, and then like the next scene, he just kicks the desk out and starts blasting.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just the callback, and then Sarah's like, just like old times, right, Arnie?
yeah. Fuck off, Sarah. So you went from fucking like riding a scooter and letting your housemate fucking some dude, you know, to like. Just like old times. No, bitch, fucking not, but fucking 15 years ago, you're like, why do I need to be a prodigy? Now you got those round glasses on, shooting Miles Dyson while he's on the computer.
She might have been watching Alien and Aliens and thinking, man, I got to be more like Ripley.
Yeah. Well, apparently, I don't know how true this is, but the guy that played Vader,
like the guy or the
like the dude that played Vader was
the big dude. He thought I think you better say he thought he was going to be the face of him too.
No.
He
apparently he did some acting coaching with the chick that played Sarah Connor leading up to Terminator 2 to be more badass.
Oh, okay.
Apparently, that's just some movie myth shit. But the other part about the oh, by the way, this has turned into a 90s movie extravaganza instead of just about Mars Attacks.
Yeah, exactly.
But to be fair, like, we covered off a lot about Mars Attacks in the first quarter of it. And it's good that we've spilled out into other series from around that era. So
noted comparisons and everything. And I suppose what do you think is funnier though out of this film and Beetlejuice? I got a lot more out of
fucking Beetlejuice for
right?
sure.
So I think as a concept, it's cool.
Yeah.
And everyone has fun. That's great. But you know, it wasn't many laugh out loud moments. It's kind of a bit part action, bit part comedies. You know, as in like very light on B movie. Does it make sense? So if I'd seen it when I was a kid, it might have a very different opinion.
I basically chose this movie because although there was a bunch of movies of that era, it was one that like I think might be interesting just because of the cast and because of like it just being something different. So I think that it was a good choice to review, but I'm pretty much the same. I think that like although I did see it as a kid and have fucking traumatic memories of shit like that, but I think that I was into it just more so just to see something that all these people are in at the same time in the same movie. But aside from that, it didn't have a lot of value as far as the storyline and shit like that.
Right, exactly, yeah. I bring it back to having something to say. I just don't think it really did. It was just, that doesn't have to. Not every film has to. I bring it back to The Mummy again, because also we were talking about how that scene scared you, the finger biting scene. But scene, I was scared with all the mummy scenes, especially when like the mummy,
the blind guy at the start.
Oh yeah, like it's all like freaky. And you watch it again, and you're not scared, but like I'm certainly not scared. But as a kid, I was frightened. The fucking mummy, like played by the bald dude. I can't remember, Arnold Voss.
I don't know. Yeah,
but yeah, no, like so it had that sort of scare, like the horror element to it. It wasn't really. It was kind of schlock horror, but it was sort of, had those elements to it.
Yeah, I reckon that the Mummy was there was that bit, like I was saying, where he just fucking kills the blind dude at the start, sucks his fucking life out.
Yeah, you're going around and everyone has picked up one of those.
The scarab beetles and shit.
Scarab,
like, it's
that's
fucking
right.
so scary. Like for me, I remember watching it.
Guy runs into the wall to kill himself. It's like, it's freaky. Yes.
Like there's scenes like that still stick with me from The Mummy. And to be fair, dude, haven't seen any of the other mummies. Only watched the first one. Fucking left it at that.
You don't need to, I think. I think it's probably the best way. I mean, I watched the second Mummy. It's not something that you gotta watch.
Yeah.
It is a cash grab. That's all it was.
Yeah.
Talking about sequels, it doesn't really do anything as a sequel. It's just sort of like the next adventure of. So with Indiana Jones, another great sequel is the fact that it's not a sequel, it's a prequel, but you don't know that. So you're still thinking, oh shit, Indiana Jones can die here, or these people can die, you can lose. But then like knowing it's a prequel, you don't go in thinking, there's nothing at stake, because you've already seen the sequel, so you know the future of the film, so it takes away from it. Part of why the Star Wars prequels kind of were always doomed to fail, as in not fail, but really kind of be a harder sell than the original trilogy.
Yeah,
because you know what happens.
Yeah,
it's about how it gets there. So it's hard to play with that and make it engaging and as interesting as the original trilogy.
I think so. I think that like it's something that a lot of movies are linear. And I think to be like different, it's good to have prequels and like different storylines. Tarantino's another one where it mixes up different scenes, puts them in different orders.
Yeah. You can play
Reservoir Dogs, like how fucking insane that shit is. How like it'll open with a scene that's like linear, like if you went sequentially, it'd be like towards the end of the movie or in the middle of the movie.
Nolan does that too. So they play with
Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, Pulp Fiction.
Another one opens with the end.
Or Memento was complete opposite. Started with the end, then moved backwards. So yeah, you can play with time and how time elapses over a movie for sure. But as a standalone movie and then doing a second one, which is a prequel, let's say, like X-Men, that's a hard one too, because you're doing X-Men prequel, which was so you already know the characters. But you're sort of just filling in the blanks as to how Professor X got in his wheelchair and stuff like that. But they also did that really well. X-Men First Class was a really good film, I thought.
It is good. I like X-Men. I've always just had this mental thing.
Yeah.
I'm just like, if you can control metal, why the fuck are you in a wheelchair?
No, true. Well, I suppose he move himself forward and stuff. Yeah, I think with X-Men it's best not to ask those sort of questions, because
I know it's not, but like it's a bit like a horror movie. It's a bit like if you're like, how does he get up out of that? Like Mike Myers in Halloween, like you shot him, dude. Like surely he's not immortal, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you just don't ask those questions. Speaking of questions you don't ask, Terminator 2, he leaves the bikie bar.
Yeah.
Dude walks out. Can't let you take the man's wheels, son. Fucking just takes his sunglasses, flicks them, and puts them on, right? He gets back to the motorbike, and he just puts the gun in, like, the shotgun that the dude had in the back of the bike. Where the fuck does he put that? Was that just a shotgun character built into the... It's a question you don't ask. Yeah. And I learned that early on because I said...
Just sit back and enjoy the ride. Don't think about where that... Yeah.
I said to Dad, I was just like... Because we're watching Terminator 2 together, we're kids. I'm just like, wait, where did he put that shotgun? And Dad says to me, you're not meant to ask that question. And that's how I learned early on.
Magic of Hollywood, son.
And he said it's the same reason someone can jump out of a car doing full speed and not get hurt.
Right. Punch a glass.
Yeah. Like
it's always fun when films play around with that. I think there's in The Nice Guys, he sort of punches a glass and he's like, oh man, that's bleeding. So that's bleeding a lot of blood. He has to go to hospital. It's just he had a handkerchief over and stuff too. But yeah,
like when the two cops in Terminator 1 are trying to fucking like console with Sarah about how the Terminator jumps on the top of the car and fucking smashes the windscreen with his hand. Yeah. And he's like, but she's like, well, how would he do that? And the cop's just like, probably on PCB, could have broke every bone in his hand, wouldn't have felt it. And he starts to go into a story. He's like, I had this guy once, and he like starts to talk about a scar, and the other cop's just like, Ed, come on, go and sit down. Let give us some space. Like little scenes like that make the movie. Like I've heard of a lot of scenes that I really enjoyed that actually ended up being like improv scenes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like bits that...
There's some really good
like Goodfellas, the whole like, funny how? What am I, fucking clown? I'm here to amuse you? Yeah. Improv'd.
It is. It's why you see a genuine sort of reaction from Ray Liotta. He's like, what the fuck? And he's sort of like, man, he's really thinking, what do you mean? Like he's put on the spot.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's such a natural kind of scene. He has some really great ones. And I think James Cameron's had a few like that where he's like, oh, that's unscripted. That's awesome.
Giving people freedom to do what they want really can help make a film. And that's my like favorite part of that movie, even before I found out it was improv. Like I went away from watching that movie saying that's my favorite fucking scene in that movie. Yeah. Except like there's a few good scenes as well, you know, like where they fucking where he just stabs Maury in the back of the neck in the fucking car. And like this is how it just goes to show how little remorse they have for human life. He literally ice picks him in the fucking back of the head. Yeah. And then fucking I forgot who, I think it was De Niro's character, Jimmy. He just goes like, I thought he'd never shut up. You know, like that's as much as they... Or they're all getting in the car and that fucking dude that they find in the cooler. I forgot his fucking name. Anyway, he's like, they're sitting in the car, there's a dead body, and he's just sitting there and the car's idling. He's like, what are you doing? He's like, I got to let it warm up. Warm up? Get the fuck out of here. Like, he's got to warm the car up.
Indiana Jones in the Raiders of the Lost Ark, absolute key iconic scene.
Yep.
Is when the guy's, you know, doing the big sword thing, swishing it around, and he pulls out his gun, boom, just shoots him. That was meant to be. That was scripted as a big, elaborate sword fight. And then Indiana Jones just went off script and just pulled out his gun and shot him. So that guy was literally robbed of his sort of, you know, 5-minute scene, and that became an iconic scene. It was great.
That's so funny, dude.
Yeah.
There was another scene that I was going to talk about. Oh, yeah. Talking about Tarantino films, I have my favorite non-main character or extra scene from a Tarantino film.
As in, like, just a...
Like an extra with maybe one line.
Yeah.
A fucking walk into the bathroom, cops are standing around the fucking hand dryer talking. Or is it Pulp Fiction?
That's Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah, Reservoir Dogs. Yeah, because he walks in there.
He's telling a story. Yeah.
Yeah, and he just goes like, he's talking about a dude that they're like arresting.
Yeah,
and he just like steals the scene because he's just going like, and I said, buddy, I'm going to shoot you in the face if you don't put your hands on that dashboard.
Yeah.
And Bill Burr was talking about that scene on his podcast.
Yeah.
And the actor that did that scene's son showed it to his dad.
Oh, right.
So the actual actor heard Bill Burr talking about that scene in the movie.
So Bill Burr was just talking about like...
How good that scene is.
How good, like an extra scene or an extra who's, you know, uncredited and they're talking about something and you're just like, whoa.
That's my dad. And showed it to him.
I think this guy's credit. Have you seen No Country for Old Men?
Yeah.
So you know the scene where he goes, the bad dude. Fuck, what's his name? Can't remember the actor's name. Jaws. He goes in, basically, yeah. And he sort of, he says, I'm going to flip a coin, call it.
Yeah.
The guy's like, why? Like, what do I stand to win? He goes, just call it. He goes, but I got to know. You know, he's like an old guy at the gas station.
Yeah.
But he's like, it's a 5-minute scene or maybe a 4-minute scene, and don't know who he is. But his acting's immense, just crazy, because he's just sort of like so unsure. He just knows that something bad's going to happen, and he's just like, I got to know what I'm standing to lose here. Like, I'm sorry, sir, I can't. He goes, I'm going to have to call it for you. Then he goes, well, okay, you're going to have to.
Yeah.
You know the scene I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know the scene. Yeah.
There's
There's the another Tarantino scene that I liked was in Death Proof.
Great film.
Tarantino's cameo. He closes the bar. He's the bartender.
Oh shit, he is too. Yeah.
He closes the bar.
Yeah.
And then he turns around. He's got a tray of fucking shots. And he walks over and sits it down, and then just sits down with him and does the shots. So he's off shift now. He can start drinking. And I was just like, the perfect bartender is a combo between Tarantino from Death Proof and Most is like from The Simpsons.
Oh.
Somewhere between those two is the best type of bartender. Like someone that doesn't take any shit but will have a drink with you after their shift.
Yeah.
You kind of need that. And a Simpsons reference to a Tarantino film is, you know, the deal, the pawn shop owner with one arm. He's got like the arm folded over.
Yeah.
So there's that scene in The Simpsons where Snake, I think, takes Police Chief Wiggum or someone hostage.
Yeah, that's right.
And they're fighting, and they come into the shop, and he's just like, well, looks like Spidey caught himself a few flies. So there's like a Simpsons reference to
Simpsons,
a Tarantino film.
There'd be
cool.
many.
There's so many. Yeah. Well, that brings us up to the hour, man. Let's wrap it with that. Basically, it became a 90s movie extravaganza. I hope everyone enjoyed this episode. I enjoyed going through some 90s stuff. I enjoyed having you on. It's good to have you on.
Marky, I really appreciate it.
Shout out to your podcast, The Hack and the Void.
Yep.
No, sorry.
Hack and the Fraud?
Hack and the Fraud, yeah. Hack and the Void.
Hack and the Void is a cool name.
Yeah. Okay. That's the side, like the home brand version.
Yeah. We'll try to have you on, so we'll talk about some QT possibly. So,
Cool. Yeah, cool. Well, thanks very much for being on the show.
Yep.
And I'll catch you next time. This has been episode 96. Peace. Don't buy me a drink. Just name names. Yeah, right. Big Tony. You'll get fucking thrown out of the strip club with your floppy disk.
Yeah, all day.
Make people feel shamed for shit all day.
Don't blow
Turn
it.
it into a hard drive. Yeah, right. You'll get fucking we're here to
Keep it simple. Count your money.
that they're not proud of. Just give me $10.
Hey, right.
Click.
Did you hang up?
No, I just said click.